Started. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here with you. Scott from Bishop's University, and I'm the manager of IT Client Services here, sort of most directly responsible for Moodle and the support of Moodle and the pedagogical, technological support for faculty on our campus. And I'll let Keagan go ahead.
Thanks, Scott. I'm happy to be here as well. My name's Keagan. I'm at Mount Allison University. I'm the educational technology technician here, which means that Moodle questions and how to use Moodle and keeping faculty plugged into Moodle and Moodle working for them is sort of in my wheelhouse.
Excellent. So we're going to be moving through 4 topics that we selected today that are sort of 4 topics in Moodle that are probably of interest to everyone, even if you don't know they're of interest to you. And it'll probably move pretty quickly today. As I think I mentioned it the last time I did a Moodle talk, is that we will try and cover this. We'll try and highlight the features. Really, it's to put an idea in your mind about something that could be done. And I fully understand you might have follow-up questions. We're happy to answer things after the fact, and I'm sure that each institution has support venues as well. But hopefully we'll give a descriptive enough example here that you should be able to try some of this stuff on your own. All right, so I'm going to begin with the first topic, and the first topic is talking about the incorporation of video on Moodle and more video in terms of daily messages and video forums and things like that. So I'm going to share my screen, and I will share, so everybody should see a empty Moodle page right now, and I'll just let Keagan give me a thumbs up if he's seeing it just to make sure. Yep. So I have an empty Moodle page for today's session, and one of the ideas that I really want to stress with faculty this semester to enhance the engagement factor of your online class is you want to have content in your Moodle that is dynamic and is changing on a fairly regular basis. And so, as a matter of fact, both of the things I'm going to talk to you about today are about having content that sort of changes based on the date or based on other criteria in Moodle. And one of the things that I'm particularly passionate about is using more video. And so I'm going to throw out the idea of a daily video message that sits at the top of your Moodle class, which is where you, whether it's 5 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever, you record a new video message for your students. And it's super easy to do. You don't need any other tools. It's built right into Moodle, and you can do it from there. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to turn editing on in my class. And at the top here, where we always find our announcements, the required forum in all of our courses, this is where I want this video to appear, and I want it to change every single day. So I'm going to add an activity or resource. That activity or resource in this case is that I just want some content that is going to display on the main page. And that content that we normally use in these circumstances is called a label. It's just for placing content on the main landing page. So I'm going to select label. And I'm going to enter a little bit of text in here. I'm going to say daily video message, daily welcome message, daily thoughts, something like that. And then I want to record my video. It's really easy to do. You expand your text editor. All of our institutions have an option where you click and you can expand your text editor to get the enhanced functionality. And you'll see that one of the buttons in your text editor looks like a little video camera. And if I hover over it, it says record video. And indeed, this feature will allow you to record directly into this Moodle site without any other tool. So if I click on that right now, you're going to see that I get a start recording button here. And if you have never done this before, the very first time you go to do it, you're going to get a little pop-up in your browser that's going to say, allow this website to use your camera, allow this website to use your microphone. Of course, it's not asking me that because I do this all the time. But you just have to answer yes to those. And then you can click Start Recording. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome. These are my thoughts for Thursday morning as we look at starting the bright sunny day here in Lennoxville. I wanted to remind everybody that we will have a synchronous office hours session from 1 to 3 today. Ensure that you book your time slot in the little widget right below. And also that we have the assignment due tomorrow, the assignment on such and such, submit through Moodle. These video messages are excellent for recording just this quick little story that you want to include as your daily message in the class. And you'll note there's a countdown timer here, and that countdown timer starts at 2 minutes. That is the length of one of these videos. So it's not for recording a lecture, it's not for recording an asynchronous content module. It's just for recording that introductory message. So I'm going to stop recording. It will very quickly show me a preview of my recording if I want, give me an option to record again, and then I can just attach recording. So I'll click attach. Here it is. I'm going to just clean up my text a little bit. I'll make it bolder, make it larger, So there's my daily video message. And now I say save and return to course. And so now that message will be in there and playable by the students. And I can go and change that message in an instant any day, because now it's available for my students. They come in, they see it. But tomorrow, I want to record a new message. Remember, this is a daily video message. It can be ephemeral. It's no more or less ephemeral than if a student attended class or not. So I'm going to come in on Friday morning, and I'm simply going to turn editing on. I will go over to this label, click Edit. I will simply put my cursor behind the video. You probably can't see it blinking here, but I've clicked on the right-hand side of the video so that when I hit the delete key, it simply deletes like anything else in the text editor. And then I simply go and record a new message. Start recording. And good Friday morning, everybody. And here's the daily message for today. This gives you the ability to have something dynamic and changing in your site every day, and it's not an email from you. It's a message that is, they can see you, they can hear you. It increases engagement in subtle ways, but just because they're seeing and hearing you. So save and return to course. So that's a daily video message. I'll just throw out one other option that you can use these built-in video recordings for. And that's that you have that video recording feature wherever you have a text editor in Moodle. So you're not limited to just doing it on the front page here. If I had an activity or resource created and I created a forum, say we were going to have a weekly discussion forum or a discussion forum on, we'll call it a video discussion forum on cell biology, which I know nothing about, but that's just what came to my head right now. And I won't bother customizing any of the settings here in this case. I'll just simply save and return to course. And now when I go into this forum and I go to add a new discussion topic, posting one. And because I have my regular Moodle text editor, I have all of the Moodle editing functionalities. So I can immediately record a video here. So we can actually make this a video-based forum. And because of the limit of 2 minutes on these built-in videos, we can actually challenge students to make your argument, but you have 2 minutes to make that argument. And so you can do a video recording here. You can also see that you can do an audio-only recording if you wanted to, although I much prefer the video ones. So great idea for getting away from some of that static text content that we've all been working in for years and years. Why not start incorporating some of this built-in video? And with that, I'm going to finish my first subject, but I'm going to read the one question that I see in the chat here about this before I pass it on to Keagan. When does the video load for students viewing the Moodle page? When they load the page or when they choose to view the video? Just wondering for students checking Moodle on their phones who are using data. Oh, okay. So the video does not load when students load up the web page. They have to click play. It's very much like a YouTube. It won't start buffering the video until they actually click play. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it on to Keagan for his first topic.
Thanks, Scott. That's a great introduction there. So, like Scott said, one of the really important things when you're delivering an online course is to keep the page active and changing for the students. And so one of the ways to do that is, as Scott said, have changing content that you edit every day, or you're posting new materials. Another way to do that is to actually have the page respond to the student's own engagement to it. And the way that Moodle has that built in is you can have Moodle track whether or not students complete activities. And there's two benefits to this. One is that students then receive kind of immediate and visual feedback about their progress through the course. The other good thing is that you, as the instructor, can get a report of who has completed what activity, and you can get it in a really graphical way that can help you sort of target your, target maybe your offering of assistance to certain students, or to encourage certain students who haven't participated. You could just drop them a line to say, hey, I'm just wondering how you're doing in the course. And this is important in an online course, whereas in a regular course, you would see the students in the classroom every day. If a student hadn't been coming to class, you would notice, and so you would be able to reach out to them in that way. But this allows you to sort of see who's been participating in the course, and also gives the students some feedback. So I'll just share my screen. And so this is just a little demo course that I've put together. I'm viewing it as a student at the moment. And so this is what a student sees. This is the demonstration page. You can see that at the top here, it actually shows the student that they've completed 35% of the items in the course that are being tracked. So you can see that 7 of the 20 items have been marked complete. And so what does that look like for a student? Well, if we go to, say, this first section of our course, you can see that over here, there are little checkboxes that are next to different activities, and some of them are green, and some of them are grayed out. And so if we hover over this grayed out checkbox, it says that the item is not complete. It will be marked as complete when you meet the criteria, and you cannot change this manually. So the criteria for an activity to be marked complete that's set by the instructor, and the specific criteria that you require can change depending on the activity. So, for example, you can see that this discussion forum here, at the moment, as a student, it's not marked complete. But if we click on that, you can say this is a forum post discussion topics. And in order for the activity to be marked complete, please start one new topic and reply to 3 of your peers' posts. So you can see that this student has started his own topic. This is my new post. And if we click into here, you can see that this was the student's post. The instructor made a reply, and so the student posted a reply to the instructor's reply in his own post. So that's one reply. So we have a new post and one reply. We go back to the discussion forum. We can see that in my response, here's a video message like what Scott was talking about from the instructor. So the student has posted a reply here. But we haven't posted a third reply. So let's go do that now. We'll go to new video recording. This is a video recording of the instructor. As the student, I'm going to make a reply. So I will just say, nice video. Just forum. So now I've made my third reply. So if we go back to the course, you can see now this discussion forum has been marked as complete. And you'll actually notice that, so I've completed 8 out of the 20 items. My overall course progress is 40%. And the progress in this particular section, this is a tiles format for Moodle, is what it's called. I'm not sure if other institutions have installed that format, but the nice thing about this course format is that it actually tracks on each section of the course how much a student has completed. And so, there's a number of other ones. So the instructor in this course has required tracking on some of the items, but some of the items are not required tracking. And so you as the instructor can decide whether or not you will track all of the items or only certain items. So I'll just go through a couple of the ways that items can be tracked. For example, if you have a sort of static content like a PDF or a video, what you can do is you can set it so that the content will be marked as complete when a student views that activity. So what we've done is I'm just viewing this PDF, and as a student I don't really care, so I open it and then I shut it again. You can see that it marks it as complete. With static resources like that, all you can do as the instructor is require the student to view it, and it will be marked complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to view this one as well and read through that. So now you can see that these two have been marked complete. You can have students manually check whether or not something is completed. So if there is resources outside of your Moodle course, say like textbook chapters that you want your students to have read, what I've done is I've just set these two textbook chapters up as labels, as separate labels, and I've set the labels so that the students can manually mark them when they're complete. So if I'm the student and I want to show that I have actually read chapters 5 and 6, what I can do is on these checkboxes, you see that when I hover over it, it says click to toggle completion status. So as a student, I can just, I can choose whether or not I would like to indicate that these are completed. And so other activities, for example, this choice, we would like to make force our student, or require our students to have made a choice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a choice here. My feedback has been saved, and if I go back to here, you see now that the choice has been updated. And the same is for a quiz. If we wanted to take a quiz or what have you. So what I think I'll do is I'll now switch over to the instructor's view. And so here I am as the professor in this course. And the kind of odd thing is that it actually tracks your own progress through the course, which you can ignore because presumably you have engaged with all the materials before you've posted here. But what I'll do is I'll just take us to, this is a tile where I haven't necessarily changed the settings on any of them, and I'll just go through a couple of the different types of activities and the different kinds of criterion that you can require for a student to complete that activity. So first I'm just going to turn editing on, and I'm going to go down to this particular tile here. So when I go edit the settings, so for any activity that you add to your Moodle page, you can edit the settings. And these are the base sort of settings that you might have been familiar with. The important drop-down menu here is the activity completion. So if we click on activity completion, so what I'm going to do is unlock this one. It had already been marked complete by students, so it recommends that you don't change it after that. But so when you say you add like a PDF or a video to your Moodle page, and you want to track the activity completion on it, when you first open up the activity completion, the default is set to do not track activity completion. And if you select from this drop-down menu, you'll see for this resource we have two options. So a student can manually mark the activity as completed, which was like what we had for those labels with chapters 5 and 6, or you can show the activity as completed when conditions are met. So for a resource like a PDF, the only condition that you can set is that students must actually view the activity to complete it. You can also require that the student must have viewed the activity by a particular date. So if you enable this date, then students must have accessed this resource before July 30th in order for it to be marked complete. So even though we've set it so that the only criterion is that a student must view the resource to mark it complete, if they view that resource after the 30th of July, it won't be marked complete. So we'll just save and return to the course, and I'll go through a number of these other ones. So for a discussion forum, we edit settings, and we go to activity completion. We're going to say show activity as complete when conditions are met. And you'll see here for the discussion, there's a number of other options. So we are going to require students to view it. We are going to require students to have a specific number of topics that they create. So required discussions is that a student must start at least one thread of the forum, and require replies. So a student must post 3 replies. And these can be set to whatever arbitrary number you want. If you instead just want to require a student to have, say, 4 engagements on the discussion board, and you don't care whether they start new topics or they reply to others, then you can just use this require posts. So I'm going to save and return to course. So if we look at the choice, again, we go to activity completion, and we can show activity as complete. So this one, we can say students must view the activity to complete it. We can also say that they must make a choice in order for it to be marked as complete. So you'll probably be getting the idea that for every different type of activity, there are specific and different criteria that you can set for the activity to be marked complete. I'll go save and return to course. If we look at the quiz, we can set it to be require conditions. So you can require that students must receive a grade in order to complete this activity. So that means basically that students must have attempted the quiz and been graded on it for the quiz to be marked complete. What you can do is if you have say you have multiple attempts on your quiz, perhaps you have unlimited attempts, but you have a passing grade. So students have to get 80% in order for them to pass. What you can do is you can require a passing grade so that students must do the quiz until they actually pass the quiz. And once they do that, then the quiz will be marked complete. Or if you say have an 80% pass rate, but up to 5 chances, you can make it so that if the student tries it 5 times and still doesn't get the 80%, but you want to give them a break for having tried the quiz 5 different times, then what you can do is you can set that so they have used up all their available attempts. I'm going to save to return to course. I'm just going to show you one more activity, which is the lesson activity, and then we'll go and view the report. So if we go and edit the settings on the lesson, and again, we go to activity completion. So the lesson, we can require students to view it. If you have your lesson set up with quiz questions, and you're grading them, you can require students to receive a grade. So they must complete enough of the quiz to actually have received points in it. Or you can require that students must reach the end of the quiz, or the lesson, I'm sorry. So they must get all the way through the content before it can be marked complete. The one thing that's interesting about the lesson is that you can require students to have spent a certain amount of time with the material. So say we wanted students to have spent at least 10 minutes with this material. You can indicate that in your description of the lesson and say that in order for this to be marked complete, you must spend at least 10 minutes. What this is useful for is perhaps you have a video and you want to make sure that students watch the whole video. Instead of just embedding the video right in your Moodle page, what you could do is you could embed the video into a page in your lesson. And if the video is, say, 10 minutes long, what you can do is you can require that students spend at least 10 minutes with the content of this lesson in order for the activity to be marked complete, which is a way of kind of forcing your students to at least sit through the entire video, whether or not they pay attention to it. So I'll just quickly go over what the report looks like. So if we go to the course settings menu and we go down to reports, one of the reports available to us will be activity completion. We click on this. What you see here is a sort of a grade spreadsheet of all of the students who are in this course, who are enrolled in this course, as rows, and as columns, all of the activities that we are tracking completion on. And so you see here that student 1 is doing quite well. Student 1 has completed, quite a few of the required activities. But student 2, oh boy, they really haven't done anything in this course. So maybe it's time to shoot student 2 a message and say, hey, just checking in to make sure that you are, in fact, engaging with the material and reading through. What you can do is you, as the instructor, can actually override the activity completion. So you, as the instructor, if you click on this checkbox, it will ask you to confirm. But we can manually say, oh, well, you know what? I think student 2 should have received the completion on this history of the book. And so you can do it that way. You can also download this as a spreadsheet, as an Excel spreadsheet, if you want to save it or use it for marking or any other thing like that. So that's activity completion in a nutshell. What I'll do is I'll now turn it back over to Scott.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that leads into my next topic, which is what we're going to call, it's called access restrictions on Moodle. I hate the term. I call it progressive disclosure, self-pacing, something like that. But really quickly, I'll share my screen super fast here just to show you while we're on the subject of activity completion, and because it lends really well into my topic. Here's an activity completion chart actually filled out for all of our OLTCs that we've recently hired at Bishop's. We had in one of our sample classes a whole bunch of activities that needed to be completed, some of them self-declared, some of them programmatically declared, that being the dashed lines around the checkbox. And you can see that the professor can really quickly get a snapshot by looking at this one page about where the overall progress is, where the warning signs are, if somebody hasn't accomplished anything that they're expected to. It's just handy for knowing progress in a quick view. So I'm going to go back to this page here. This is now going to be a different page than you saw me on the first time, but as you'll see, I was recording daily video messages in this course, and so that's why one is still visible here. And I'm going to talk about this access restrictions feature. And it's something you might have seen in Moodle before. It's something you might have experimented with in Moodle before, but it's really super powerful, and it's even more powerful if you use activity completion, the element that Keagan was just talking about. So everything in Moodle has the ability to set access restrictions on it. So everything you post in Moodle, so whether you're just posting a link to a website, whether you're posting an assignment submission, whether you're actually, in fact, your entire subject, all of your course blocks. So if I just simply turn editing on in my class, okay, there we go. So we'll turn editing on in the class. Okay, I apologize. Keagan, I'm going to actually ask you to cover your next topic while I'm sorting out why our Moodle is not responding, and I'll be back for the fourth topic afterwards.
Sure, no problem, Scott. So the other topic that I wanted to talk about was sort of the different ways that you can link to content in your Moodle site. And so I will just give me one moment, I will bring up my screen here. And I'm logged in as the instructor. So if we go back to the class here, say we had a topic in our site, a section in our Moodle site, and we wanted to add, say, like an assignment. So what you normally do is we add an activity or a resource. We click on assignment, click add, give it some details, and set the settings as we want it, and save and return, and we'll return. So you can see now that in this in our Moodle page here, we now have a new assignment. And if we were to go and look at this section as a student, so this is the student view here. Let's go to this last section in the page. You can see that we have an assignment and a page here. So if I go back to the teacher's view, you all know about the ability to hide things from your students. So if you have something that you're working on, a work in progress, you can have it on your page, but you can keep it hidden from students. So you see here, this is indicated as hidden from students. And to do that, you just click on the Edit button, and you click on Hide. And what that does is it now hides it from students. So students, even if they have the link to this assignment somehow, are unable to access this content. If you would like say an assignment or a video resource or a PDF to be available to your students but not shown here on the main page, what you can do is, once you've hidden it from your students, if you click on Edit, you can go Make Available. And now, I'm not sure if you can read that, the type is kind of small, but what it says is it says available but not shown on the course page. So if a student were somehow to find a link, because every activity that you add to your Moodle site has a unique URL that can be entered into the address bar, and that will take you to that URL. So if a student has this URL now, they can go and view this assignment, but it's not shown on the course page. What that means is that you can add that URL to a resource on your Moodle page, and students will be able to click that link and access the resources that you have hidden through other means. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, the one main reason you might want to do that is, say you had your own icons that you wanted to use. You were sick and tired of these sort of Moodle branded icons like the hand with the holding the paper, and you wanted to have your own icons for your assignments. Well, what you can do is you can hide these Moodle icons from your students but make them available, and you can set the icons that you add to your page to be links to those assignments. So I'll just show you the student view of this page. We click on this page here, and we click on Assignment Submissions. These are two icons that I have added to this page, and these icons link to assignments that are in this section that we saw as the instructor view, but are hidden from the students. So if I click on this, you see I'm now brought to this assignment called Assignment 1, and I can now add my submission and interact with it in every way that I would as a student. However, on the main page, I don't see Assignment 1 here. I only see Assignment Submissions. And the same is with this other one, which happens to be called Assignment 2. And so as the instructor, I can keep resources and assignments hidden from students, but let them see them through these other links. And you'll notice, I forgot to point it out, but before I clicked on those two assignments, they're set, as the instructor, I set them to be to have activity completion on. And so even though they're hidden from the student in this page, it actually indicates that I have now viewed both of those assignments. And so the activity completion, while it doesn't show up here on the block because I've hidden those activities, it will show up in the topic total, and it will actually also show up in the course total. So I'm going to go back to being an instructor, and I'm just going to show you really quickly how we can make a link to this new assignment that we've added. So if I hover over this assignment, you can see at the bottom of my screen there, this is just part of Firefox. You can see that it actually gives the URL that this is a link to. And if I right-click on this link, what I can do is I can go copy link location. And what that does is it copies to the clipboard the specific unique URL of this assignment. If I were now to go and edit this page, go edit settings. And so here are the page content. And so I would like to add a third icon for this third assignment that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click in here. I'm going to give it a little bit of space, and I'm going to add a picture. So I'm just going to insert a picture. I'm going to browse to a folder that I have on my computer. So on my desktop, I've got icons, and I'm going to use this icon, assignment upload. Okay. Upload this file. Give it a description for screen readers. So upload assignment, and I'm going to save the image. So I'm going to align it to the middle so that it lines up with the other ones. So at the moment, this picture isn't linked to anything. It's just an image in this page. So if a student went and viewed it, they wouldn't be able to click on it. But what I can do is I can select this picture and then click on the link, the insert link button on the text editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm now just going to simply paste in that URL that we copied earlier. So I just paste that in here, and then I go create link. And so now what we'll do is we'll go with save and return to course. So what I'm going to do, so that was a link to this new assignment that we made. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit this assignment. I'm going to turn activity completion on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the student's view now. I'm going to reload this page. So you see now that this tile here, it says progress at 67%, which means that it's tracking completion on items in this tile, but as a student, I can't actually see them. But what I can do is I can click on this page, assignment submissions, and if I click on this third icon here, what that will do is it'll take us to this new assignment. And I can submit it and interact with the assignment as I normally would. And if we go now back to the class, you can see that now I have completed all of the activities in this section. So just quickly, I've added these icons to a page, a separate page that opens up when I click on it. But as Scott indicated earlier, you can add items like videos or these icons right to your Moodle page by just inserting them as a label. So we could make a label with an icon on it and have text that says click here to submit assignment 1, but you could have your own custom image that would be the link to assignment 1. So I think that covers the basics of it. I will pass it back to Scott now if he is available.
I am, and my Moodle problem looks to be sorted out, so we should be able to do this. And I'm actually just going to mention that what Keagan is just showing there is fantastically useful. In most of my classes on Moodle, I will keep a hidden section with a whole bunch of hidden resources that I will use and link to in other fashions like he's showing you there. I actually had a question from one of our OLTCs yesterday who didn't want to have a whole bunch of forums visible all in one place because it would be too messy to show, 8 or 9 forums in one section. And so what his suggestion was, or what the suggestion is to fix that problem, is to make those forums, in fact, in a hidden section and then link to them from, say, a page, as you just saw Keagan do there with the assignment. So it's an excellent solution. Okay, so I'm back in Moodle. Everybody should be looking at my Safari window now. It should be much, much faster. Turn editing on. Yep. Turn editing off. Yep. Okay, way faster. Excellent. Um, so I was talking about that thing that Moodle calls access restrictions. I prefer to call it progressive disclosure, gated disclosure, something like that, just because access restrictions sounds a little negative connotation. Um, and what this is used for in Moodle is effectively for creating some form of self-pacing. You can use it for self-pacing. You don't need it to. You can just have it so that certain things appear on certain dates simply because you don't want them to appear before then, or you don't want them to appear longer than then. And you don't want to have to think about it during the semester. You know, you're thinking about it during the summer now, and maybe you have something that you only want to appear for 2 weeks in October. You can set that all up ahead of time, and then Moodle will take care of it for you. So I'm going to show you roughly how that works. So we're in the Online Learning and Technology Consultants Orientation course here. And when the OLTCs were hired, there were a whole bunch of what we called first step activities that they had to do. And you can see them in this one section here. It's a whole bunch of links to read or videos to watch. And they had the activity completion modules enabled so that they could self-declare or have automatically declared that they had completed these elements. And in this scenario, I don't want them to see the very next week. So I don't want them to see the initial training schedule and sort of get access to that section until they've completed those first steps. Okay? And that's really easy to do in Moodle. So we go and we turn editing on. And when we turn editing on, absolutely everything in Moodle, anything that you can add to a Moodle page, or indeed the course sections themselves, if you go into edit, in this case, edit this topic, which contains the training schedule, and that's what I want to restrict access to or delay access to, I click edit topic and I scroll down and there's a restrict access option. And you'll see there are no access restrictions by default ever. But I can click add a restriction. And then I get a number of choices about what kind of restriction I want to add. Do I want to add something based on activity completion? Do I want to add something based on a date? Do I want to add something based on a grade? Do I want to make it so that one quiz is only available if you score a certain percentage on a practice quiz? I could do user profiles. So I could say, for these 5 users with these literally 5 names or 5 email addresses, make this document available for them and them only. That one I hardly ever use. And then there's another one here called restriction set. And restriction set it's really just piling access restrictions on top of access restrictions. You can actually make this as complex as you'd like. You can make it so that they must complete 5 activities and it must be between September 5th and September 15th by adding in more and more restrictions. We won't talk about that one today because I've rarely ever seen a purpose where it's super useful. But we'll talk about activity completion first, just because it's a topic that Keagan introduced today and it's really useful. So we're going to add a restriction based on activity completion. And you see it comes up with student must or must not match the following. So in this case, I want that they must match the following. And then I get to pick which activities they have to have completed. So I can select any one activity if I want. So I can just go in here and I can say activity completion of watch this active learning video must be marked completed. And I can also choose must not be marked complete. So you must be marked complete with a passing grade if it was a quiz, with a failing grade. You can really get into the nitty-gritty here. But for the most part, if I just want to set up restrictions based on having done a number of these first steps activities, I can simply add in more restrictions based on activity completion and say, okay, so I also want you to have submitted all of your employment paperwork, so that must be marked completed. So I can choose the number of activities that I want to be completed, and then I can simply say save changes. When I do that, it will update the page here, and it will tell me that this page is restricted, so it's not available unless this activity has been completed and this activity has been completed. Now, I'm going to switch to a student view so that you see what it looks like when a student looks at this page right now. So we'll flip over to another window here because I want to actually use a real student account. So you should be seeing that page now from a student's perspective. And if I go down, you'll see, well, jeepers, I see it. Why do I see it? And I'm logged in as a fake student called student test. Well, let's take a look. The two activities that I specified were watch the active learning is marked complete and the ensure you've submitted all the required paperwork is marked complete. So let's go back up. Watch active learning is not marked complete and ensure that you have submitted all the required paperwork is not marked complete. So what is happening here to show this content when I just put in those restrictions? The reason that that is still visible is because I'm going to tell you why. The reason that that is still visible is actually because that is a description item in the topic. So I'm going to describe to you why it's happening and then show you how I'd fix that. So I'm going to switch back to my teacher view. Go back to the teacher view here. So this is back in Safari. We're going to go back down to that element there and we're going to edit it. And we're going to go down to restrict access where those access restrictions are set. Now, there's two things to note in here. One is this little I here. This little I on these restrictions means should the item actually be visible to the student even if they didn't meet the criteria, or should it be just visible but grayed out, or should it be completely invisible? So I can check that, and in this case, now it says hidden entirely if the user does not meet this condition. In other words, they shouldn't see it at all, okay? So it starts off that it's just an open eye, and that means it's grayed out if they don't meet the condition. In other words, they'll still see the element on the page, but they just won't be able to access it. Whereas if I put the little cross through the eye here, it simply means now that it's hidden entirely if the user doesn't meet this condition. So have I solved the problem? Let's take a look. We're going to save changes. Okay, so I save changes, and now you'll see it actually adds this little hidden otherwise after the conditions. So I'm going to go back to my student site, and we're going to see if I've solved the problem. Back to Google Chrome, and I will refresh the page, and look at that. It's gone. That training schedule is now gone because of the fact that that little I disclosure was what was causing it to be still visible. And by doing that as a the way I did it is actually not the best, so I'll create another example here really quickly to show you a little bit better how that's working. But it's simply because of that. So we're going to instead do this on a more common example, like a quiz. So I'm just really quickly going to put a quiz into this site. Screen again. Feature screen. Okay. So I'm going to really quickly go in here. We'll go down to another week, and we will put a quiz in here. So I'm going to go down to topic 10, which we never used in the class. I'm going to make topic 10 visible, and I'm going to add an activity or resource, and I'm going to go put a quiz in really quickly. I'm not going to set any settings on it at all. I'm just going to pop the quiz in there. Okay, so I'm going to say test quiz. Not going to add any questions to it, not going to worry about grades, not going to worry about any of that kind of stuff, and I'm just going to say save and return to course, okay? So it's now on my page, and it's visible to everybody because it's not in a hidden section. So if I go back, and I'll do this through switch role 2, switch to a student so that you can see what a student would see. So right now, a student sees test quiz. Okay, so now we'll go add a restriction to it and show you the example of what it'll look like. So return to my normal role, scroll all the way down to the bottom, turn editing on, then scroll all the way down to the bottom. And now I'm going to edit this quiz, edit settings. Once again, absolutely everything in Moodle has this restrict access feature, which you probably never used, but it's there. So I'm going to add a restriction to this. I'm going to add an activity completion restriction. And I'm just going to pick one activity this time. So I will pick ensure that you've submitted all the required employment paperwork. That's this option right here. So I'm going to say you have to have completed that in order for this quiz to be visible. Okay, but I'm not going to change the little I symbol here. I'm going to leave it so that it says displayed grayed out if the user doesn't meet this condition. And I'm going to save and return to course. So now it does tell me, the teacher, that this is restricted, so it's not available unless you have clicked off or selected or completed the activity, ensure that you've completed or submitted all the required paperwork. We'll switch to a student view and just see truly what a student sees. So now if I refresh the page as a student, I still see that. Okay, because of that little I symbol on the restriction. So I can see that the quiz exists. It's right here, and sometimes that's a useful thing, and it tells me why I can't interact with that quiz, why I can't click on it and go there, is because I haven't completed this. But if I did want to make that quiz completely invisible until they had submitted their employment paperwork, then I simply go and change that little I symbol again. So I'm back in Safari here, back in my teacher view. I will edit the settings, and I will go down to restrict access, and it's just that little symbol right there. And if you click that, now it's hidden entirely. So now when I save and return to course, it will actually tell me that. It puts it afterwards, hidden otherwise. So now the student will not see this at all unless they've completed that one activity. So for the final time, we will switch back to the student view. Okay, so if I now refresh this page, you can see I now see topic 10, but I don't see the quiz in there at all because it's restricted. But now, if I go up and I, as the student, say, oh, you know what, I submitted all my employment paperwork, so that's done. And now, if I scroll down the page, I see the quiz. And so this is a really trivial example, contrived example, obviously, but these access restrictions are super powerful in terms of enabling you to gradually reveal elements of your class. Now, I've done that based on an based on a activity completion, but as I mentioned, there are lots of other options in there. So if I go back into that same class as a professor and turn editing on, I could go back down to that quiz and I can edit settings, go to restrict access, and instead, let's just delete that restriction, say that that's not the restriction we want at all, but maybe we just want a simple date restriction. Maybe we do not want that quiz available unless the date has reached at least a certain date. So I'm going to say the date being from July 31st. So it's not today. So if it is not today, it will not be, or if it's not tomorrow or later, it will not be visible. So save and return to course. Once again, I didn't click that I symbol, so this will actually show to the students this way. And indeed, if I switch my role to a student view, I will see it, but it does tell me that it's restricted and available from July 31st. So you can use date restrictions, you can use activity completion restrictions, and as I pointed out before, you can get into some nitty-gritty of some individual user restrictions. So I'll just show one more quick example here. Edit settings, restrict access. So when we add restriction, we did activity, date. You can do grade. So as I say, you can require a certain grade on a previous assignment to reveal a next assignment. You can do user profile. So I can literally go in here and I can say, you know what, this is available from the 31st onwards, but also only if the email of the student, email address, contains ubishops.ca. Now, how could that be useful? Well, let's save and display. Oh, no, turn to course, sorry. So what if we were running a Maple League class? And in my Moodle class, I actually had students from Bishops, Mount Allison, St. FX, maybe, and Acadia, let's say all four. And I wanted to give a customized document to each of the four schools. By building in a restriction like this, I have said, at this point it's available after July 31st. I could just take the date out, but I could build so that each of the schools will only see the document that pertains to them. So I could say only show this particular PDF if your email address contains ubishops.ca. And then I put a second PDF on the page and say only show this one if your email address contains mta.ca. So it allows you to build up these really customized pages and pages that dynamically change over time, because with this date feature, you can have it available at a certain date, you can have it disappear at a certain date, and it just makes it so that you don't have to think about it. You don't have to put a little calendar note for yourself on October 1st to remember to make that quiz available. No, you know what? You decide to reveal it on that day and you make it set in the system. A quiz is a bit of a bad example because quizzes already have dates associated with them, but you can do this with anything. So in this case, for example, this is simply a label that I've put on the page. Zoom links for Monday, Friday meetings are now in the upcoming events block. Well, everything in Moodle has a restrict access. So even with a label, I can go and add a restrict access. And for the one final note, what about the daily video like I was talking about earlier? What if I had to go away to a conference for a week, when we can go away to conferences, and I wanted to record all 5 of my daily videos ahead of time. I could record 5 daily videos in 5 separate labels here, and then I can set an access restriction on them to say only available on this day of this week, only available on this day of this week. So it just gives me a way to gradually reveal these things or reveal them at a time of my choosing. Handy feature.